Hey, welcome to the Secret Habit Podcast. I have something very exciting for this episode. I interviewed Dr. Trish Leigh, who is an expert in the realm of neuroscience, the brain, the mind. She is really smart. And I think there's something really cool about the way she approaches this field because it's something that she's really passionate about. She's not just smart. You can tell that she has a passion to really help people. And some of the ways that she shares about dopamine and understanding the nervous system and what is going on in our mind with anxiety and fear. She's really good at making things practical. I learned a lot on this call, on this interview, and I think a lot of the ways that I approach healing is from an inside out, where we want to look at the unmet needs of our hearts and the darkness that Jesus has never been invited into. I know she does some of that work as well, but she does a great job just making it really obvious about just the reality of the brain with dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. And she's going to explain those things so well on this interview. So I wanted to just do a quick intro just to say this is good stuff. You're going to learn a ton, but you're also going to leave with some great application tools like the dopamine determination plan. Really good. I wanted to just do one plug because I want to make sure Dr. Trish's resources are promoted. I'll link them in the description below. Go to her website, go to her YouTube channels, go to her Instagram. Her content's amazing. But if you want to work with a coach, if you actually want to get hands-on help, like what Dr. Trish Leigh is doing is amazing, but her program, from what I understand, is more not working hands-on with her, but it's utilizing her wisdom. If you actually want to work with me, if you want to work with somebody hands-on, you can join Deep Clean Inner Circle or Deep Clean Signature, two of our programs. One of them is low ticket, $60 a month, $2 a day. One of them is high ticket. That's where you're looking more like $1,000 a month. They're both different. They're both amazing, and they serve a different audience. So I'm going to link the links for those below in the description. If you want to just learn more in general and you don't have time to go into the description, just go to secrethabit.ca or search my name, Shawn Bonneteau, Secret Habit. Get on our website. You can book a call there. You can get more information on the Inner Circle Brotherhood, the low ticket group. All of that's there. There's also a lot of free resources. So without further ado, enjoy this amazing interview with Dr. Trish Leigh. Well, Dr. Trish, thank you so much for coming on the Secret Habit podcast. It is great to see you and have you here.
Yeah, hey, I am so glad to be able to spend time with you again, right?
Yeah. We connected 3 years ago. I was
Mm.
just getting started with Secret Habit. Now I'm working with Deep Clean and still doing Secret Habit. So you got some exciting news. Mind Over Explicit Matter is your newest book. You were just telling me about another book that you're getting a deal on. So really excited to learn more about that book, but also like the impact of that book. So I think more than anything, that's where I want to focus our starting point. So like
Yeah,
for
for
you,
sure.
Dr. Trish, tell me like what are some of the things that you were finding in the field that even drove you to write that book? Because we were just talking before, there's so much bad stuff out there. So I'm always pumped
It,
when I find a good
it,
resource.
definitely. So, for me, um, I'm in a similar position as you where we offer programs for people. The program that I offer, it uses state of the art neuroscience. Of course, I want every single person in it, but it's difficult for me to serve every single person. So I really wanted to put what I knew and what I found through all the research into a book that people could
Mm,
access, affordably, just like porn,
yeah.
affordably, accessibly, and anonymously. So
Mm,
that was really important. That was the driver. I wanted people to know the science behind porn consumption and addiction, how it is showing up in their life in terms of their thinking abilities, their mental health, their physical health, especially erectile dysfunction and what I call
mm,
SAD,
yeah.
sexual arousal dysfunction.
Mm,
People aren't necessarily like picking up these breadcrumbs and
yeah.
putting them together. So, I wanted to be able to unfold that for a person
Mm,
with the neuroscience, but then most importantly, give them the recovery steps and
yeah.
strategies in a really practical resource. And I've heard
Yeah.
from a lot of people, lots of great feedback on the book on
Yeah.
how not only did they enjoy the story, I tell the story of Sam, who is my initial porn addiction client,
Yeah.
who, when I figured out Sam was addicted to porn, I literally pivoted all my work into
Mm,
explicit matter. I couldn't not like it
wow.
had, it grabbed me with such conviction.
Yeah.
I felt like I was perfectly poised to figure it out. But, people say they love the story and that they're able to use it, and people have read it multiple times to try to get the most out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much value in having good content in one place. Like people are using ChatGPT now to try and figure all this stuff out. So we have a human who has been gifted to do this stuff. That's really amazing that you're able to put that all in one place.
Yeah, no, listen, I love chat. If anybody loves chat, it's this girl. And I use chat a lot, but I must tell you, he has his shortcomings. So if you are an avid chat user,
Yes.
you already know them. And if you're not, you do have to have a level of discernment. One
Yeah.
thing about my book is that it had over, I don't know how many scientific citations there are now, but there were over 300 of them
Hmm.
when I put the book together. And honestly, the publishing company's like, you don't have to cite every single sentence. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I do because I want people to know
Yeah.
these are not opinion statements. Every single thing
Yes.
in that book is validated by current science.
Yeah.
And, when I use chat, I'm like, chat, give me some current science. And then,
Yep.
the study will come up and it's not even the study he told me it was. In the book, it is all rock solid in terms of scientific
Yeah.
studies.
Yeah. So, Dr. Trish, tell me a little bit like if someone doesn't have this sort of insight, like what are their pitfalls? Because that's the thing that we're always trying to figure out as coaches and therapists is how do we actually break through to these people and help them? So, what are some of the things people are kind of meandering around, just lost, and you've been able to kind of solve those things?
Yeah, well, number one, self-awareness is incredibly low. In the book, I talk about it. It's the first pillar of emotional intelligence. So,
Hmm.
like, until you raise your self-awareness, it can be pretty difficult, and that when I talk to people, I can immediately tell like the level of awareness they have around their own situation. I don't try to bring them up 19 levels if they need to be brought
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
My approach is regulating their brain. In the book, I
Mm.
talk about it as the silent tsunami of porn
Mm.
addiction. We know scientifically that most people are exposed to porn when they're young.
Yeah.
Their brains are not even developed yet. And what happens is like a tsunami is, you know, huge waves that take out everybody on the shore,
Mm.
but it actually starts 200 miles below
Wow.
the ocean. The surface is a
Yes.
crack. So that's what the
Yeah.
neurological dysregulation is. When you're young and you
Yes.
find porn, it actually changes your brain to need more dopamine. So
Yes.
I want people to know like a lot of your behaviors or even your thoughts are driven for the need for dopamine,
Mm.
dopamine dependency, and it's constantly fed through the reinforcement loops that you're stuck in.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I love that tsunami metaphor. I talk about like the dormant volcano. Sophia's talked about geysers, and it's just nice to see how there's so many of these metaphors just to connect with people. And it's just that idea
Yeah.
of what you're saying, like a relapse started last week. Just it just happened to happen now. So that's powerful.
Mm.
Yeah, self-awareness. I wonder
Yeah,
for you to
people tell me all the time, I don't know why I relapse. I'm like, well,
yeah.
let's look into it. And I can
Yeah.
see how people's brains perform. So I'll pull up their brain performance
Yeah.
graph and I'll be
That's
like,
so
okay,
cool.
I see a stress spike last Tuesday, followed by a
Wow.
dopamine spike last Wednesday. What happened last Tuesday?
Mm,
And inevitably they're like, I had a rough day at work and I had a fight with my girlfriend.
yeah.
And then, did you have a slip? I did. You know what I mean? Like, well, there it
Yeah.
is. So now let's
Wow.
double down on what you're going to do to balance your work days
Yeah.
when they feel extra stressful. And how can you show up differently with interactional and communication style when
Yeah.
you're talking to your girlfriend, right?
Wow. So when you say that you have the ability to look at what their brain is doing, is that some sort of one of those neuro bands? Like tell me a bit about that because
Yeah,
someone to hear that like
yeah,
oh that's state of the
yeah,
art
totally,
stuff.
yeah. Definitely. I have my own app now. I've partnered with
Yeah.
the leading software company that makes the modality that I use is called neurofeedback. So it's been
Hmm.
around for 100 years. Other people
Yeah.
do it. Other practitioners practice it. But what they don't know is I've developed the protocols for dopamine dependency and porn addiction and porn
Hmm.
induced erectile dysfunction. So most of the people I work with, they have erectile dysfunction because they have urgency.
Yeah.
That comes from the brain being completely flooded with dopamine and the
Mm.
dulling of the dopamine receptors.
Hmm.
So it's called a QEEG brain map. I work with people in almost every country, which is like
Yeah.
mind blowing now. It's so
Yeah.
cool, but it's
Seriously.
a wearable. They put the hardware on their head.
Yeah.
They use my app and they're able to see their brain map, which basically means the areas and the level of dysfunction. And it's
Mm.
for all the people I work with, it's linked to that dopamine dependency.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
also linked with a low ability to get calm and focused. I've seen that
Mm.
tens of thousands of times.
Yeah.
The brain waves, we're talking about brain waves, the brain waves in the middle speeds to make you feel calm and focused throughout the day, they're running
Hmm.
low. And
Yeah.
that's what leads a person to need dopamine. They're stressed
Yes.
out and they need to regulate their mood.
Yeah, wow. So powerful. I'm smirking a bit because my story is quitting porn and still struggling with erectile dysfunction for about 3 years after, while coaching people to quit porn, thinking like, what's wrong with me? And there were so many things that I uncovered that I just didn't know about. Some of what you're saying, and ended up becoming like the expert of ED for a while in on podcasts. So I love that you're talking about that because it's such a parallel, and I'm just
Oh, it's
really
so
also
important.
passionate. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the number one pain point that people
yeah.
will see into the future that they care about. Most people when
Yes.
I'm like, walk away from porn, they're like, "Thank you, but no." And or if I'm
Yeah.
like, "I can help you heal your ED from the inside out," then they're like, "Tell me
Yeah.
what you mean by,"
Yeah.
so it is a
Seriously.
difference. It is a difference.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And you mentioned the self-awareness. I'm curious what you found. I've sensed the kind of the status quo in the world is self-awareness is what leads to healing, but I really believe that it's kind of the data that tells us what needs healing. What's your perspective on something like that?
Yeah, when self-awareness is low, like you need something else to bring up your self-awareness, right? Like that's the essence of it. When it's low, it doesn't enhance by itself. So that's why
Yeah.
working with a professional can be so important, and especially one that gives you a lot of data.
Hmm.
So like if you don't know what kind of health problem and you have blood tests and it shows all these blood markers are off and that's on the inside hidden so you don't know. Now you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, like I'm deficient in this, I need that."
Mm.
It's the same way. That's what I'm
Yeah.
looking at in people's brains. You're
Yes.
deficient in calm focus, your reward
Mm.
centers, hijacked. It needs dopamine
Yes.
dependency. Your brain's completely stressed out and stuck in stress activation,
Yeah.
sympathetic dominance. Your ability to get into parasympathetic activation
Mm.
too low. You're like all these things are very visible. Then a
Yes.
person, honestly, most of the people I work with, they have a little bit of a grieving process when they see it
Yeah.
because they think
Yeah.
it's self-induced, which it is, but compulsions and addictions, like they're not
Yeah.
necessarily self-induced. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
escapism, and
Yeah.
you have to get back to your true self, which is what I talk about in the book. It's the
Yeah.
hijacker doing it to you, addiction
Sure.
itself, not you.
Yep.
So, I think people become really empowered when they realize that. They see it in the data. They're
Mm.
like, that's not me. It's brain
Yeah.
dysfunction that I've
Mm.
had to walk around with because of,
Yeah.
pornography or
Yeah.
social media or whatever that might be. It
Yeah.
can lead to,
Yes.
empowerment and inspiration to be able to heal.
Yes, yes, that's such a key element. Yeah, what you just said is crucial because I think, especially as men, like the fixer mentality, lots of self-contempt, and I often and I wonder what you would say about that and how you speak
Mhm.
about that because I think it's always good for my audience to have a new voice
Yeah.
instead of just
Yeah.
Sean all
Let
the
me tell you,
time.
because I have a lot to tell you around that.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
think about this logically. Like I already told you that sympathetic dominance is, fight or flight or hypervigilance, like you're
yes,
on red alert.
yes,
So that fixer mentality keeps you in the dysfunctional mode. I tell people this all the
yeah,
time. You're trying too hard.
yeah,
The energy of trying isn't the energy of healing. They're the
mm,
opposite. When you're in sympathetic
yeah,
dominance, it's go, 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 fix, fix, fix. And I can see that in the people who are, people joke, I think I've become addicted to your program. I'm definitely
uh,
addicted to the data. I'm like, I don't want you addicted to anything, but I'll
yeah,
take this in the short run. But that's the mentality. Like,
yeah.
the mentality is like, I got to fix this. Where healing's different, where if you allow yourself to heal, it actually goes faster. But at the
Mm.
same time, like, since we've last talked, I've had toxic mold poisoning. I was very, very sick.
Well, I
The only
saw this on
reason,
your YouTube.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had to tell people because
Whoa.
I looked like I was gonna die. I was trying to
Whoa.
fake it till you make it for as long as I could, and then I had
Man.
to take a little time. But my point about that is, I was trying so hard to heal. I was
Mm.
just accidentally stressing my system out
Wow.
when I just took a little bit of a step back and just let the energy come down, that's how your detox pathways open
Mm,
up, like that.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
pacing and it's about,
Yeah.
but you have to have the proper help. The reason I was so sick
Yes.
for so long is I didn't know anything about it and I didn't have,
Yes.
kept going to people and they couldn't tell me. Once you find the right help, and that's what's so important about the book that I wrote, they're brain hacks in order. Like
Mm,
literally, if you do them, you will move forward.
yeah.
And if you're not where you want to be, you go back to the brain hacks that you haven't been
Mm,
able to snap those pieces of the puzzle into place.
yeah.
You can move forward quickly, but you don't want to keep pushing. You
Yes.
want the allowing to happen.
Yes, yes, yes. This is really tied into a question I wanted to talk to you about, and it reminds me of a visual I got. I was a sermon at a church, and the pastor was talking about surrender, and I just got this visual of surrender is actually just kind of these open arms. So often when people think of surrender, they think of like grabbing things and giving them up, and it's just this grip. Or one of my mentors once said that obedience is actually a door to an open meadow, not a treadmill. And I love
Yes.
what you're saying because I wanted to ask you about anxiety, hypervigilancy, these things that are so rooted in purity culture, so much of the recovery today. Like on a bigger picture, what is that really doing to people? Because we think about it as like porn addiction, but I think you and I both know there's so much more at stake here. Like, what are things like anxiety,
Totally.
hypervigilancy, fear? What is that
Yeah.
really doing to people?
Yeah, it's awful. Well, first of all, I have to present the chicken before we talk about the egg.
Yes,
So now
please.
the chicken, of course, like the human condition's a difficult one. It always has been. So like life is stressful, right? But we have to remember that when your brain gets hooked on high levels of dopamine, it actually puts you in a dopamine deficit in your life, which means your
Mm,
life is more anxious. We know this. There's books coming out all the
yes,
time right now
yes,
where, there's more anxiety simply because of screen time use
yeah.
and especially explicit matter. There's more depression, there's more ADHD.
Mm,
Everything in the world is more difficult because of the screen.
yeah.
So that
Wow.
is actually the chicken.
Yeah.
Like if your life feels twice as stressed and you've been consuming porn since you were 10 and you're on your phone a lot, that's
Hmm.
a chicken. And the egg is the stress and the anxiety and those challenges. But
Wow.
there's flow state. Flow state in the brain, it is presented by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, one of the people that I love the most in terms of his research and its applicability.
Mm,
Its original applicability is to peak performers like athletes, like
yeah.
basically it's the feeling, the healthy feeling, not the porn induced one, of
Yeah.
losing time in creativity or in something that's important to you. That's how dopamine's
Mm,
supposed to work. You're not
wow.
supposed to feel this huge rush followed by a huge letdown. That's what I call the
Mm,
pleasure pain paradox. I talk about that in the book.
mm. Yeah,
What
yeah.
you want is the happiness trifecta: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin combined at lower levels. When you
Mm,
hit that sweet spot, now you can be in flow state. And honestly, that's what
okay.
happens when I write books. Like, we
Yeah.
were talking, and I'm like, I do it because I love it. And of course, I have the luxury of measuring my brain too. So when I was editing my book, I had to edit it. I was on a deadline, like the first non self imposed deadline I've been on in a decade probably, but you know what I mean? So I felt a little bit of pressure there, but doing it was just like the most amazing thing
Yeah.
ever. And I did set up like micro workouts and I made sure I ate and I made sure I had protein shakes. I made sure I laughed
Yeah.
with my people in small parts,
Mm,
small little
yeah.
pockets. But then I'd get done editing every night. I measure my brain. It would be 99% calm and focused, even though I worked all
Wow.
day. Right. I'm like, this just confirms what I always thought. Writing puts me into the best brain state where
Yeah.
when I rush from appointment to appointment all day long, my brain feels like soup
Mm,
at 5 o'clock,
yes.
like,
Yes.
so this is the point. If we can create lives that put us mostly in flow state and allow our
Yeah.
brain to be in that calm focus mode, the mode that allows for epiphanies and creativity and
Mm,
the best thoughts you've ever had,
yeah.
it's not pushing, but
Yeah.
it's not stopping. It's flowing like
Mm,
a river, right? Like,
yes. Oh,
that's
it's
the
so
beautiful place
sweet.
that I want people. Then there is no fear. Fear
Yes.
comes from the wired and tired brain pattern. I call it strained brain. Fear
Yeah.
comes from the strain.
Yeah.
Anxiety comes from the strain. Hypervigilance comes from the strain. You
Yeah.
can still do big things in flow and you feel like you're pushing yourself, but it
Mm.
feels different. You're not afraid. You're
Yes.
glad you're taking the opportunity.
Wow. Reminds me of my journey of learning the Czech language. So I love what you just said, that
Mm.
trifecta. Just for the listeners, can you explain dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin? Because those are big words.
I
And what you
can for
just said
sure.
is really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So dopamine is known as the molecule of motivation, more, and pleasure. So it gets misconstrued as the pleasure molecule because it really, I mean, it's responsible for pleasure when we want to link it to healthy pleasure sources,
Mm.
but it's really at high levels about seeking and searching. That's why scrolling's so
Yes. Yes.
dangerous for you because scrolling inherently is a dopamine activity
Wow.
leading you to what's called a supernormal stimulus. A lot of dopamine,
Hmm.
porn, OnlyFans, dating apps, social media, even short and long form video,
Yeah.
drama, violence, explicit matter, all the things people are consuming,
Mm.
cat videos if we even want to go there. But but the idea is that when it's isolated and someone's trying to hunt down as much dopamine as possible, it's not healthy for you. When it's balanced in the
Yeah.
happiness trifecta, it is. Serotonin is actually the molecule of satisfaction and peace,
Mm.
happiness. So, dopamine's like a roller coaster, serotonin's like a sunset.
Interesting.
So like, yeah, it doesn't hit the same in the nervous system, but it lingers differently. It's
Yeah.
very important. It
Uh-huh.
gives you this sense of satisfaction.
Wow.
So that's missing if you're on the constant hunt for dopamine, just higher, higher, higher
Mm.
levels of pleasure. And then last is oxytocin. It is the hormone or the chemical of bonding. So when a
Yes.
woman has a baby, there's a lot of oxytocin to neurologically bond
Yes.
them together.
Yes.
And same thing happens with your partner. We have attunement, or when you are married or you have a partner, your nervous systems will literally align and
Mm.
sync up in attunement, and that oxytocin is important. But
Yes.
oxytocin gets hijacked too. Like if you now are consuming porn and there's a particular
Mm.
performer,
Yes.
oxytocin's
Yes.
pumping towards that person, not
Yeah.
your partner.
Yeah.
OnlyFans or social media is even more dangerous. It's creating what's
Yes.
called parasocial relationships, transactional relationships.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
you're a dollar sign to the performer, but in your mind, they
Yes.
become more. But again, it's taking you away from your partner.
Mm.
So that's why we don't want to single out these
Yeah.
chemicals. We want them to combine for happiness and link it to your life.
Mm. Yes. 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 I think what you just said, I'm hoping is groundbreaking for some of my listeners because I have a theory that our sexuality in many ways forms through the mother wound. And it's this idea that we don't get the affection, the nurture, and all these things that we need growing up. So, what you just said, super powerful. And whenever I work with guys who really don't understand their struggle and they have heterosexual pornography usage,
Mhm.
yeah, it's really a journey we go on to just pinpoint those unmet needs and those difficult lack of oxytocin moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk to people about that all the time. And it's in the book too, like in terms
Yeah.
of inner
Wow.
child wounds. And,
Yes.
the way to solve that in the present is to help that inner child who's wounded, who has, if it's a mother child attachment issue,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you reparent yourself. You
Yeah.
figure out what little you needed. And there's
Yeah.
exercises in the book. You
Yeah.
figure out what
Yeah.
did little you need. And I talk about me. Which it's ironic. My father called me Little Wish for the longest time, and
Mm.
nobody in my family remembers,
Wow.
which that was huge. When the book came out, like one of my siblings
Yeah.
remembers that. I'm like, I didn't make that up, but it's interesting
Mm.
because, like, looking back, we all had different experience. I grew up in a family of six, so
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
had different experiences. But so my dad called me Little Wish. So I talk about, like,
Hmm.
there was things I needed and I didn't get in a big
Yeah.
family. But
Yeah.
now, as I grew older and I did this work, I'm no longer mad about it. I'm no longer
Yes.
caught up in it. I've learned how
Yes.
to create the solution for what I need.
Mm.
I've reattached differently to my parents, even though they really haven't
Yeah.
changed. Hopefully,
Yeah.
they're not watching, even though I know they've heard it from me before. But like, they haven't improved their
Yeah.
emotional maturity.
Yeah.
They don't have to. I've improved
Yeah.
mine, which means that
Yeah.
I can show up in our relationship in a new way.
Yes.
Really, I've repaired it in a really beautiful way, like such a gift
Yeah.
to myself. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Love
Hmm.
it. Yeah, so cool. That's my favorite modality. My wife always tells me that the base of what we do is inner child work, but it's a little bit different as Christians and how we invite Jesus in. And I just love that modality because it really is in that way, like reparenting, separating. And I actually had my family visit a few weeks ago, and it was the best family experience I ever had because I led my inner child from not needing mommy anymore.
Uh-huh.
And it
Isn't that
was
wild? Yeah,
so
my
powerful.
my new book that I'm all excited about, I am rolling it out. I won't tell you the title in case it
Yeah.
gets changed, but it has a working title. But in the working title, I'm calling it The Sacred Science of
Mm,
Finding Joy in a World of Overstimulation. And
mm,
the sacred part of sacred science is like going back to theologians like St.
yeah.
Thomas Aquinas and
Yes.
Augustine, like layering
Yes.
in the greatest, Christian
Wow.
thinkers, but C.S. Lewis, layering that in to
Yeah.
really reflect. I peppered it in just a tiny little bit in Mind Over
Yeah.
Explicit Matter because I really wanted to keep that non-spiritual,
Sure.
because
Sure.
I didn't want it to be written off as another, like,
I get it.
book of religiosity, because so many people have had bad
Yeah.
experiences
Yeah.
from people or organizations that were well-meaning, but I really wanted it to have its own. This
Yeah.
is neuroscience. But in the
Yeah.
new book, I do want to layer in the spiritual
Yes.
journey more explicitly, no pun intended, but to layer it in so that people go, this isn't just neuroscience. And
Hmm.
actually, St. Thomas Aquinas called it sacred science. I loved that when I
Yeah.
was
Oh, I
reading
didn't know that.
yeah, Theologica Summa.
So cool.
It's just like mentioned, I'm like, sacred science. I absolutely love this because
Yeah.
this is a
Wow.
really cool way for me to merge neuroscience and spirituality.
Yeah.
Because I believe, like, how I told you, flow state is where you are tapped in and connected to God directly.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
that those are the moments of divine
Yes.
inspiration. You
Yeah.
can't hear the
Yeah.
voice of God or the Holy Spirit within you. You can't hear that if your brain is chasing
Yeah.
dopamine hits. You
Yes.
can't. It's masked.
Yeah.
It's it's drowned out,
Yeah.
It's like trying to hear a whisper at a concert. You can't.
Mhm.
So when
Yeah.
you dial the concert down and you get in quiet,
Yeah.
that's why toning down dopamine dependency is imperative for
Wow.
people to get back on purpose,
Yeah.
realize their identity. How do I want to contribute and serve this world? What do I
Yeah.
want to experience here? Because, our
Yeah.
function is also happiness, and,
Yeah.
being able to move towards that and away from all
Yeah.
the distractors that keep you from that version of yourself.
Wow. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that, Dr. Trish. I'm impacted by what you said. And actually the very first inspiration I had to do anything content related was to write a book called Hell is Locked from the Inside, which is a C.S. Lewis quote. So it's still on the radar one day.
Love it.
Hoping to write a book in the next 5 years or so. And this is inspiring for
Love it.
me. And what you just
Love it.
said, oh,
Oh, that is
just
so cool. I love that. That's so cool.
yeah, so I'm just feeling super inspired by what you just said, and it really touches me in a sweet place in my heart because I talk a lot about in again like trying to make these conversations really healthy, but like in the Book of Revelation, it says that Jesus is knocking on the door, and for those who hear him, will open the door. It doesn't say he's only speaking to certain people, and I just
Mhm.
love what you just said from like a scientific toning down dopamine perspective. Like, that just hits home. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do in the whole new book. That's why I'm so excited, is to weave in all these, you
Yeah.
know, pieces that people have read, but
Wow.
let them realize this isn't just theory we're talking about. You have the ability to get into that state,
Yeah.
and, you are holding yourself, you're locking it from the inside if
Yeah.
you're not, like, on accident. So
Yes.
that's why
Yes.
knowledge is power. Once you become, you know, once you understand, then once then you can move forward with all the things that you need to
Yes.
do. That's the
Yeah.
journey that's ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I admire about what you're saying. It's just like most guys feel like they're responsible before they have that knowledge, and the
Yeah.
knowledge is what allows them to actually be responsible.
Yeah. Well, people tell
Yeah.
me all the time, they're like, I believe you, Dr. Trish. And I'm like, that's great, except for you don't have to. because what
Yeah.
I share with you is true. You have to understand it, not believe it. People
Mm,
do think they have to believe it. You
yeah.
don't have to believe it to get rolling. You know that
Interesting.
that's why like in my strategy is, you have to create a pivot plan that works. You have to figure out how to get dopamine from
Yeah.
your actual life. I encourage people
Yeah.
to dopamine stack in their real life
Yeah.
while they're
Yeah.
digitally dopamine detoxing so they don't go through withdrawal.
Yes.
Like they're very
Yes.
pragmatic strategies that once
Yes.
you get it, you're like, oh, like if I just white knuckle it and willpower it, I
Yeah.
am going to go through withdrawal.
Yes.
How do I offset that? You offset it by being prepared with dopamine stacking.
Yes.
And, like there's very practical ways you can
Yeah.
succeed with less struggle. So that's what I'm trying
Yes.
to present to people.
Yes, the healing, not trying. That's such a
Mm,
perfect way to approach it. So we talk about red zone, green zone in deep clean, with the red zone being the dysregulation, the shark music, and the hummingbird, and then the green zone being those calm states. So that sounds like you're doing a great job explaining that. What would be some of the common dopamine stacking activities people are doing? Because that's always the challenge with guys that have never really dreamt before. They've never really done what they are made to do. So
mm,
usually they're like, yeah, I could like go for a walk and read the Bible. And it's like,
mm,
yeah, you probably already do that stuff. So why isn't
uh,
it
uh,
working? So what are some
uh-huh.
things that are working for people?
Sure. Yeah. So this is what I have people do. I have them do an exercise I call dopamine determination because dopamine is different
Hmm.
for all people. I can't say
Yes.
go do this because if I say my daughter rides horses, which that's very dopamine, she jumps them, very dopamine
So cool.
producing. But she just had a horse show and the farrier, the guy who like fixes the horseshoes,
Yeah.
I walked past him on day one. He's got knitting needles and a ball of and I walked past him on day 4, and he's got the most giant blanket. But
It's
if I said
wow.
to you, you told me knit a blanket that's dopamine producing, I would,
Yes, yes.
want to take those knitting needles and do some damage with them. So that's why we have to do dopamine determination. And if you
Yes.
told me to ride a horse, maybe I could do that, maybe I couldn't. What I do, and I probably told you this before, is I have a boxing bag. Now I have two because I love to
Awesome.
box. And so like
Wow.
I have them. I have a home gym downstairs and I have a cool boxing setup and I box almost every day.
Wow.
So boxing's really, it pumps a lot of cortisol out. It floods my system with all the healthy chemicals. It gets the adrenaline going, gets the
Yes.
dopamine flowing, makes me feel great. But again, that might not be your thing. So
Yes.
this is what I have people do just for 3 minutes nonstop. Don't think about
Mm.
it. Don't overthink because we don't want to try. We
Yes.
want to do, right? Like
Yes.
Yoda says.
Yes.
So you just write everything that you used to like to do before
Yeah.
you stop doing it.
Yeah.
Things as a kid
Yeah.
you used to like to do, everything you've
Mm.
been wanting to do, but you haven't,
Yeah.
all the things in the future where you're like, I want to do this before I die. Write them all down. 3 minute brain
Yes. So
dump.
good.
Then go back and give them a number of how exciting they are to you on a scale of 1 to 5.
Mm.
The ones with the most excitement start there because dopamine is the
Yeah.
excitement pleasure chemical.
Yeah.
Serotonin's more chill.
Yeah.
A walk's going to be actually more chill. A
Yeah.
sprint's going to be more dopamine. And then
Sure.
you figure out, like, you look at that and you're like, I've always wanted to rock climb. Join the rock climbing club in town.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Yeah.
very dopamine producing, very
Mm.
individualistic. And then the stacking part is do as many of them as
Yeah.
possible. You're
Yeah.
not, but you're not like busying yourself up so you don't watch
Yes.
porn. What you're doing is getting healthy dopamine to reset the pleasure
Yeah.
pathways.
Yeah.
But I can also tell you coffee's dopamine producing,
Yeah.
food's dopamine producing,
Yeah.
sugar. Not that I really want people eating unhealthy, but I tell people dark
Yeah.
chocolate
Sure.
is dopamine
Yeah.
producing.
Wow.
Like,
Great idea.
if you have coffee, a little piece of chocolate, you get outside in nature, you call
Yes.
somebody who makes you laugh. My son Declan is so funny. He's 21 years old. And every time I talk to him, I am in tears,
That's so
like
great.
with laughter, just the way and my husband always comes up and he's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I am rolling with laughter. Like if I need a pick me up, it's Declan I'll call because
Yeah.
just the things he says are so funny. 5 minutes later, I am in just
Yes.
laughing in my mind for the next 3 hours. Like, call that
So
person if
great.
those are the things that give you
Yes.
dopamine. In the
Yes.
meantime, just recognizing like if you are having a hard time and you're relapsing to porn, screen based healthier activities are one level away. A walk is 20 levels away, right? So, like,
Mm.
Find
Yeah.
Smallville. If you remember Smallville, that
Yes.
CW
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
with Henry, I think it was Henry. No, it was, yeah, Henry Cavill was in that back in the day. That show,
Hmm.
it's got no sexuality. It's
Yeah.
slow. It's,
Mm.
it's got action, but you're not going to be triggered. Find something like that, and
Yes.
then now you're
Yes.
only a degree or two off, not a million degrees off. And
Yes.
you don't binge watch it in like nine of them, but what it'll do is if you watch one of them, it'll get in your mind and you'll want to watch the next one the
Yeah.
next night. It'll replace the
Mm.
urge for porn.
Yes.
There's a lot of these little brain tricks that if you do them in
Yeah.
culmination, you will find you will have no withdrawals. Clients
Yes.
say to me all the time, "When will I have withdrawals?" I'm like, "You won't, because if
Yeah.
you were going to have them, you would have had them already."
That is amazing. I love that. That really pumps up what I'm doing, and I really appreciate that. And I really, yeah, just pray that people listening can like just make these connections. That is epic, simple information. So dopamine determination.
Hmm. Yeah, you
Yeah,
figure out where do
yeah,
you get the determine where do you get
yeah.
dopamine? Like nobody else can tell you.
Yes,
My
yes.
husband bought me golf clubs. He's so cute, but I'm embarrassed to say that they have been in the corner of my bedroom
uh,
for 1 year. We were supposed to
yeah,
start golfing last summer, but like that's his dopamine thing. And I
yeah.
really do want to. I'm pretty
Yes,
good. I've done it a couple times.
yeah,
But like the reason I haven't made it happen is there's not a lot of dopamine there for me. Like even in
yes,
the writing, the happiness trifecta is in the writing. Like I've gotten up early every day on top of
yeah.
super long days because I'd rather write than sleep. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that's how you know you're internally motivated. But just remember too, at the beginning, you might have to fire yourself up in that direction, but
Yes.
ultimately, it's going to create its own fly loop and you are going to be internally motivated.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really cool way to put it. So I'd
Mhm.
love to know for you, Dr. Trish, what's been the most rewarding part of helping people get free from porn and ED? Like it's just so cool, your passion behind it. Like what's been the most rewarding thing for you? I see the YouTube silver plaque in the back, like obviously some cool rewards, but like really like more of a
Yeah, no,
personal.
it's not about that at all because honestly, I feel like I had a choice. I was just talking to the woman who manages my YouTube channels. I have three of them, and I'm like, subscribers are a vanity metric. That's what they call it. And
Mm,
but if you want that vanity, you've got to go in that
yeah.
direction. And it's actually quite easy to do it. You just have to. I would have to flip the script on what I'm telling people. So
Yeah.
like for me,
No
I
kidding.
hear, you know what I mean? Honestly, because people have grown
Yeah.
huge channels. So I've
Yeah.
intentionally made the choice that I want to show up and tell people the things that they don't know to create self awareness. And actually,
Mm,
I pivoted my porn addiction channel. If it feels different to you, it's because it is. Um,
yeah.
because there's over 2,000 videos there. So the first 1,500 videos were all
Wow.
on the recovery journey. Because when I started doing this, I just showed up and I'm like, I've got to tell people
Yeah.
how to solve this problem. But now there's 1,500 videos on how to solve the problem. And
Wow.
and because YouTube changes the way that they do things, you have to
Yeah.
exist within the system too.
Yeah.
I intentionally decided to create more awareness because that's how I can reach more people. So,
Mm,
it's really important to me that people hear me and go, "Oh," and people tell me all the time, "I heard you. I feel like you're, the one who knows
yeah.
what's going on in my brain." I'm like, "I do."
Yeah. Wow.
So creating awareness and then, being able to show up at all different levels because
Hmm.
we live in an economy, unfortunately. Like,
Yeah.
I've got mouths to feed. So I really have
Yes.
intentionally created programs at all different financial investments from free,
Yeah.
2,000 free
Yeah.
videos. The
Yeah.
book was
Wow.
really important to me. I wrote the book before the literary agent even knew it existed. He's like, "Have you ever thought," he's like, I'm this agent, would you think about writing a book? I'm like, got one written. Like I wrote it on my own. I did it all on my own, like
Wow.
because I
Yeah.
intend. Actually, I told him this is a funny story. He's like, "Well, I'd like to get you a contract." I'm like, "No, thank you. I've already got, the majority of it uploaded on Amazon myself, because
Hmm.
my assistant and I." And he's like, "Just pause that for a minute and think about it." I'm like, "Okay," you know what I mean? But extending my reach in that way,
Yeah.
and it's cute because my clients will say to me, "Dr. Trish, I really want to help you extend your mission. Like, how
Hmm.
can I do that?" And of course, that's important to me. But I did. I told
Yeah.
this young guy who has ED,
Yeah.
I'm like, don't worry about my mission. My mission will extend itself when you succeed.
Yeah.
Because he's in the middle. He just started the program. He's only been there for like
Yeah.
40
Yeah.
40 days or something. It's a 4-month program.
Yeah.
I'm like, for right now, you focus on you. And I believe that. I think if every individual out there just looks
Mm.
inward
Yeah.
and thinks about the things that I'm saying,
Yeah.
and they just allow like the ego or the noise to tone down,
Mm.
and for them to listen to their heart instead of the brain or the mind that's on overdrive, because the brain's on
Yes.
overdrive. If they can just
Yes.
quiet that for a minute and say, I know this might be challenging, but I'm going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm here for. The ripple effect of that is massive. And
Yes.
I don't ever have to see it play out in
Yeah.
awards or anything.
Yeah.
I know that's happening because I hear from people all the
Yeah.
time. And like, I just think that is the greatest, like,
Yes.
on my deathbed, knowing that I was able to show up in these
Yeah.
ways to help
Yeah.
people. That's it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's changed my entire life. This
Mm.
work, the things I talk about in the book, I practice. So I've
Yeah.
had to learn how to, show up in my relationship with my husband, which I always give too much information about on my podcast. Uh, like, when things get difficult, I challenge myself to stay
Yeah.
regulated.
Yes.
I
Yes.
go to flight. My husband goes to fight. So he's
Yes.
yelling at me and I'm trying to skedaddle out the door, but I've got my
Yeah.
feet anchored and I have to say,
Yeah.
you will not yell at me. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
you know, then he stops. That's just a stress mode. So I'm not even mad, but I'm
Totally.
expecting it to stop. And
Yes.
then I'm like, we
Yes.
do need to talk about this. And
Mm.
then it'll take a
Yeah.
little bit, but I'm really proud of how I've been able to show
Yes.
up in these conversations.
Yeah.
The way I've parented completely changed.
Yeah. Isn't that
Like, I'm not
so
even
cool?
kidding. I have changed the trajectory, not just in a worldly way, but in the way
Mm.
that matters for all of my children.
Yes. Yes.
They sit in the moments of discernment of their own identity and intention in which direction to go. Like
Mm.
my son Declan's graduating from college and he's like thinking about this, that. I'm like, get quiet,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
like, get quiet and just, you don't have to decide what you're doing forever. Just get quiet
Yeah.
and feel where you're being pulled
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
It'll unfold. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And that's challenging. I do it with
Yeah.
all the kids. So that is in and of
Yeah.
itself, knowing how to do all of this is the greatest
Mm.
gift.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's so cool what you said. All of that is amazing. You said something in particular is like I know, like I'm an expert, like I know that, but there's such a cool humility because you apply it in your own life, and that's something that just it's so easy to just sound cool. And what I love about people that actually have proven results is almost every time it's because they're living it, walking it, and it impacts every area of their life.
Imperfectly, by the way,
Yeah,
imperfectly.
100%. That's the best part.
It
That's
is
it.
like, it's really neat that, the overshares. Like right now, my fourth son just left for college, and my youngest daughter became a freshman in high
Yeah.
school. It's a new season for us. And so my husband and I are not on the same page.
Yeah.
And like, so now it could lead to massive like contention in a lot of
Mm,
relationships, but I won't have that.
yeah.
So I'm just like, I said to him, this is how I envision like what the things I want to do over the next 4 years when we just have my youngest at
Mm,
home. And then the 8 years after that, because then everybody will be out of the house, like the
yeah.
8 years after that, I said, I've sat down, I kind of fleshed this out in my journal quietly on a
Mm,
dark morning. I go, it's not set in stone, but this is where my heart is calling me in the next
wow.
4 and 8 years. I go, and then after that, who knows, like the next season when we're empty nesters. And I said,
Yeah.
I feel like you and I are not on the same page. And he yelled at me because it's a stress response. He's like, this woman's
Mm,
telling me we've got problems. I don't know what to do. Yell, yell, yell. And then he runs out the door. And so I just said to him, we do have to talk about this. You
mm,
let me know when you will be able to talk about it. Then
yeah.
he didn't. Then he pretends everything's fine.
Yeah.
I'm literally conditioned to not have conflict from my family of
Yeah.
origin. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
conditioned for no conflict. My
Yeah.
husband's conditioned that there's a lot of yelling and then everybody goes back to status quo.
Yeah.
th-
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm having neither of them in my
Yeah.
life for the whole rest of my life. I'm having neither of those. So I said to him, let's talk about this tomorrow before we go into another weekend of not talking about it. And I
Yeah.
walked away. And then he's like,
Mm,
okay. Then the next day we talked, he goes, it's really interesting the way you presented that. I said, well, I
yeah.
think maybe you should go see what you think your life looks like. Like either
Mm,
we have to agree upon it or we have to agree to respect what each other is
Yeah.
going to unfold. Like it's not about getting divorced or breaking up. It's about just
Yeah.
sorting it out and
Yeah.
figuring out like where are we aligned? Where
Yeah.
aren't we? Like if there is
Yeah.
any animosity about anything, how do we get to resolution? These are
Yeah.
the skills people need.
Yeah.
People don't
Yeah.
have those skills. And so what they
Yes.
do instead is it gets tough. They run away and escape
Nah.
into a screen.
Yeah.
This is the journey and I'm living it. And that took me three
Yeah.
weeks. And every time I had talked to him, it made me like
Yeah.
feel, I always say, here we grow again, Trish, because it allows me to move
Yes.
into those moments. Or if I have to call my kids and
Yeah.
gently do something with them. Or,
Yes.
like my husband said something to me yesterday where I'm like, I'm having this problem. And he's like, you have to do it yourself. And I'm like, no, I don't, not at this point. And then later on, I'm like, he's right. Yeah. Like it's not all about me being right. I'm like,
Yes.
he's absolutely right. I can't believe I've lost sight of that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's,
Totally.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
I've been married almost 10 years, got two kids, and moved to the Czech Republic 2 years ago. So everything you're sharing has been
Yeah.
amplified this last couple of years as like I'm almost like a little kid sometimes. So it's been really triggering, but so cool to what you said, like another chance to grow. And it's really been that posture. So thank you for sharing that. It's very encouraging
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's
practical,
amazing.
which
Mhm.
is all that we hope for from people that share their voice, is not just inspiration, but practicality. So that's great. So, Dr.
Definitely.
Trish, I'd
Mhm.
love for you just to wrap up. I know you got to pick up your daughter real
Sure.
soon. So, where
Yeah.
can people find you, get connected to you? What would be some resources you want to make sure people know about? It sounds like you have tons. What
Sure.
would be like the top two or
Yeah.
three?
Yep. So on drtrishleigh.com, basically all roads kind of lead out from there. The main webpage has my one-on-one clinic program described. I offer a digital masterclass. They're both described there. If you are a partner of someone who's struggling with porn, or if you want to point your partner in a direction, I have a program that is called Sanity After Betrayal. Work with women
Mm,
there. I have a Sanity After Betrayal YouTube channel. I have a big YouTube channel on porn recovery, Dr. Trish Leigh. And then I have another YouTube channel that it had identity crisis, but I have renamed it Super Normal, basically
yeah.
about supernormal stimuli and about screens in general and the road back to, the sacred science, back to
Yeah.
living. That's more because I did create the YouTube channel is now more awareness. I'm like, I have to have a place where I give people the solution. So
Yes.
over on this other channel, I'm talking about the hijack, how our creativity's hijacked, how our relationships, how our families are hijacked
Mm,
by the screen. And then every video goes hijacked and rewired. So there's a hijack
yeah.
video and a rewire the solution. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I
Wow.
rolled that out. Yeah, real cool. So there's
Fantastic.
lots of resources, tons of free resources. And if people,
Yeah.
are inspired to see what their brain holds, that's in the one-on-one
Yeah.
clinic, the brain mapping.
Wow. Wow. We'll make sure to link all of it in the description. And you can obviously
Yeah,
just
cool.
Google Dr. Trish Leigh. There's lots of great stuff
Mhm.
when you do that, because she just has amazing resources and has been around
Yeah.
doing this for a time that proves her stuff
Yeah.
works. So, Dr.
Yeah.
Trish, it was really nice to connect with you again. It was good to
Yeah, you
laugh and
too.
smile and learn and really offer
Definitely.
value. And I feel like that was certainly accomplished here. So I just bless you and,
Beautiful. Yeah.
blessing your
Thank you. Thank
family,
you.
and just thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Hey, thanks so much for checking out this amazing interview with Dr. Trish Leigh. I pray that you didn't just learn something, but you've taken something away that you're going to apply, and it will change your life. If you need help doing that, certainly check out Dr. Trish Leigh's resources. But also, if you want to work with me, if you want to work with Deep Clean and what we're doing with our approach, go to secrethabit.ca. You can check out all the ways to book a call, to join our Inner Circle Brotherhood, or go to the description and click on the links below so that you can not just learn this stuff, but you can apply it and get free. So, God bless you, brother.